Hey everyone, Vincent here from CreativeDojo.net, and I'm here exclusively for AEtuts Plus. Today in this video, we're going to be going over how to create this nice liquid sphere effect in After Effects. Now, we're going to heavily rely on the Trapcode suite, so make sure you have that. And we're also going to make this thing audio react to make it a little bit more useful to our animation. So before we get started, let's take a look at what we're going to be creating today. So as you can see here, most of this thing is created using Trapcode Form, and I think it's a unique approach to Trapcode Form and how we've been using it before, and I think it's just a unique style that I haven't seen done before, so we're going to take a look at how to create this in After Effects. Now, before we get started, there's actually quite a few things you can do with this to make it a little bit more abstract. You can actually just blur the whole thing out using a lens blur and create somewhat of an abstract background, kind of similar to Video Copilot's abstract background here for the Pro Scores promo trailer right here. You can kind of create that effect using the lens blur in After Effects. You can also apply star glow to it right here. Gives it a little unique, different shimmering diamond effect. Or of course, you can do the infamous add optical flares everywhere and go for a J.J. Abrams look right here. Anyway, let's get started with this video tutorial. Let's go ahead and create a new composition. So composition, new composition, and then we're going to create a main comp. And I'm going to make this composition 720p, hit OK. And then to make this thing audio react, you're going to need to import your audio clip. So bring in your audio clip into After Effects and drag it down to the composition right here. So we have our audio clip right here. And then we're going to hit Control Command Y on the Mac to create a new solid. We're going to name this form. Make comp size, and hit OK. And we're going to drag in form into this layer. So search in form and drag it in. So now we have our default form layer right here. Now we're going to set up the form to make it look like a sphere. So let's go into the base form settings right now. And let's change the size in X to 450, size in Y 420, and size in Z 200, leave it by default. And then we're also going to change the number of particles in X to 71, 92 for the Y, and we're going to leave the particles in Z at 3. So let's move down to the audio reaction where, all the magic happens for our audio reaction. So we're going to set our audio layer to whatever our audio clip is. In my case, it's saying goodbye to Earth. That's my audio clip. I'm going to select it in form. And form makes it really, really easy to audio react to things. Unlike, you don't need sound keys or anything like particular or anything like that. Just select your audio clip layer right here. And then for reactor 1, we're going to set it at map to disperse. And then we're going to select the delay direction to outwards. So as the audio clips reacting to our audio, it's also going to disperse some of the particles out. And then we're also going to change the width to 100. And then we're going to change the strength to 120. And then we'll move down to our reactor number 2, our second reactor. We're going to change the map to fractal. We're also going to change our frequency to 500. Now, depending on your audio clip, you may want to change around the frequency a little bit to match the frequency of your audio clip. In my case, I think that 500 works fine for me. I'm going to change the width again to 100 and change the strength down to 700 because we really want our audio to displace our fractal a lot. So it changes to about 700. But then again, you really want to experiment with these settings because it all just depends on your audio clip. Change the delay direction to outwards as well. Now let's move down to our disperse and twist. We're going to add a little bit of disbursement to our form layer. So just put 1 for both values for the disperse and twist, just twist it by 1. And then we go down to the fractal field to really mess this thing up. We're going to change the effect size to about 4. So the displacement is going to affect the size. And then change the effect opacity to 7. Displace to 72. And then we want this thing to flow upwards like the original demonstration right here. So let's just go ahead and go back down to the fractal field and go ahead and change the flow in Y to negative 300. So it's going to flow upwards. That's looking similar. We're going to also change the flow evolution down to 25, so it's not going to flow that fast. And then we're also going to change the F scale to 12. Again, this is an experimental value, so you're going to need to change yours accordingly. All right, now we go down to the spherical field to make this thing really turn into a sphere. And again, just experimental value. You need to experiment with your audio clip and your project. So we're going to change the spherical field strength to 56. So we get a little sphere here. We don't want it too strong. And then we're going to change the radius down to 500 or change it up to 530 to make it pretty large to fit our 720p composition. And then we're going to change the feather to, let's say, 59. So we have our general sphere right here. And as it reacts to audio, it's going to start messing up and kind of look like this. And this is what we're kind of going after. Now we can go up to the particle tab and just change the color of this. So go to the particles tab, maybe change the sphere feather down to about 25, and then change the color to a light blue. And then make sure that transfer mode is at additive mode. And now time for the magic. We're going to apply CZ vector blur. This is where all the magic happens, and this is what makes our form layer an actual liquid kind of texture. So by default, nothing happens. We want to change the vector blur from natural to perpendicular, and then we want to change the amount to 139. So already you start to see kind of this mess going on right here. We also want to change our ridge smoothness to, let's say, 0.10, and change the map softness to 22.7. And I think that the amount is a little bit too much. Let's change it back to, let's say, 22.7. Yes, that's looking a lot better now. So you start to see this kind of liquid effect with our form layer right here. Now, if you look at the original demonstration, if you look really close, you'll see that we have actually two form layers, and right here. So essentially, what it is it's just a duplicate of the larger one, except we're going to change the random seed around a little bit and change the displacement down a little bit. So let's go ahead and hit Control Command D, go to Edit, and then Duplicate. So we have two form layers of the exact same thing. We want to scale it down. So let's go down to the spherical field first. Open up the spherical field for the second one that we just created, that we duplicated. And then we're just going to make this thing a little bit smaller. So we're going to decrease the radius, so we can kind of fill in the inside of our little sphere right here. And then you just want to mess around with the strength until you get a proper looking liquid sphere. Just like that. And then of course you can always go down to the CC vector blur and change it to ourselves. Let's try 139 this time because we want it to fill a lot of things inside. And then we're going to change the ridge smoothness down, let's say to 0. And then our map softness to 22.6. So you're starting to see where this is going. So let's leave this here for now. Let's create our little background environment here. So let's create a new layer, Control Command Y. We're going to make it BG, set it to black, hit OK. And then we're going to drag in a fractal field to create kind of this abstract smoky background that you see back here. So let's just go ahead and play around with this. Let's go ahead and decrease the contrast down to about 80. We're going to go to the transform and make this pretty large. Maybe around 182. Leave the complexity at default. And then we're also going to go back and animate this a little bit. So let's go to the offset turbulence, hit a stopwatch. We're going to move to the very, very end of our composition and just move it to the right a little bit. So it kind of animates to the right. And then we're also going to change the evolution so it's not as static. So we're going to hit Alt or Option on the Mac, click on the stopwatch, and enter a quick expression. Time, asterisk, and let's say 120. So not only is our fractal field moving to the right, it's also going to be animating the evolution. And now we need to make this a lot darker, so we're going to apply some color correction to this. Let's bring in the curves adjustment. Apply curves to our BG background. And we're going to decrease the brightness very low. And then add some contrast to this. to give it a nice contrast but low curve. And we're going to apply a little tint of blue because our animation is somewhat blue. And decrease the reds. And let's just bring this layer down to the very bottom to see how it blends in with our form. We can also select the ellipse tool right here. Now it's probably hiding under the rectangle tool, so just click and hold the rectangle tool and click your ellipse tool. And then we can apply a simple mask in the center right here. I don't want any background right here. And then hit F on the keyboard and just feather it out. Maybe let's say 150. And then change the additive mode to subtract on the mask. So we have only our background applied to around the liquid sphere. We can always go and hit MM again, and then just change the mask expansion, something like that. And of course, we're going to need to play around with our color correction a little bit more. It's still not looking too well. And then maybe we can just apply a levels adjustment. To create somewhat of a abstract dynamic background instead of a pure black background, because it looks kind of boring. So we're going to leave it at that for now. And let's just take a look at what we have here. So as you can see, our form layer is actually reacting to our audio quite well, and everything's flowing upwards as anticipated. Now in the original demonstration, we have some particles flying upwards right here around our little liquid sphere. So let's go ahead and dive right in and create that right now. Let's create a new layer, so Control Command Y again, and name this sphere particles. Hit OK. And in this case, we're going to use particular. So bring in particular in, and just drag that in. And now you may think it may be a little bit more complicated, but actually particular has a spherical field as well, so it's quite easy to create particles to go around our little sphere. So let's set up our particular right here. So let's set up the emitter type to a box. We can change the particle down to about 20 for now, and then we're going to expand. We're going to go ahead and expand our X emitter in X. And then we're going to change the position down to the very bottom of our sphere right here. Probably below where we can see anything. Just like that. We're down to the particle. And maybe change this to about 5 seconds long. So it's going to live a little bit longer to see its death. And then we're going to go and change the size to about 2 or 3. And then change the size randomness to maybe 15%, opacity random 10%. Make sure it's at additive mode. And change the color to match our scene, so maybe a light blue. And as you can see, the rendering time takes quite a bit, so you may want to change the resolution down to about 1/3 until you want to render. And then we can go down to our physics here, and scroll all the way down under air to the spherical field, where we set up our spherical field. So we're going to change the spherical field strength to, let's just set this to 56. And everything just closed on me. We're going to reopen it again, and let's go and set this up. Feather. You pretty much want to look in your preview window and just try to match. We're going to disable the inner one for now for running purposes, and disable the background, so we just have our particles, and it's not flowing upwards. So let's go ahead and decrease the Y, the wind in Y. So let's just say -150. See how that goes. So all the particles are going to flow upwards, and then we're going to decrease the radius of our sphere. So the radius is going to be about 580. Strength, just decrease that. And then maybe change the wind down a little bit. I think it's a little bit too large. So something like that, where we have our particles just flowing upwards with our form layer. So you just have some random movement with your form, and you also have some random movement with your particular particles flowing upwards. And then of course we can duplicate this sphere particles. Control Command D. And then we're going to name this just particles in general. They're going to be flying around. And then instead of making it flow upwards, we're going to make it flow to the right. So change this back to 0, and then change the wind X to, let's say, 140. And then of course we can turn off the spherical field because we don't want these particles to be affected by the spherical field. We just want them to flow randomly. And then we can also change the position of everything back to the center. Or maybe more to the left. And decrease the particle down to, let's say, 10 particles per second. We don't want too many. And then we're going to increase the Y, emitter and Y, so fill our whole frame up. And I'm going to make these particles white, just to add some variation to our animation right here. And I think the wind is a little bit too strong, so let's go back and decrease the wind to, let's say, 120. And increase the life of the particle so it lasts a little bit longer. We're going to enable the background again and enable our for number 2. So now that we have everything set up, we can spend most of our time tweaking this thing to make it look a little bit better. So we're going to drag and shine and apply it to both of our form layers. Let's drag it to the first one first. And then we're going to change the source point to the very bottom, so just decrease the Y so we have our shine shining upwards like that. And then we're going to go down to the colorize and change the shadows to a nice blue. And change the midtones to compensate that. Something like that. And then we're going to increase the boost light. And then we're going to change the transfer mode to additive mode, so it'll blend in nicely with everything else. There we go. And then we can apply the same thing. Actually, it'll probably be easy just to copy this. So go to Edit, copy our shine effect, and apply it to the second form, the inner form. So we create this nice shine effect. And of course, we can apply a glow to all of our particles. So apply a glow to our particles. And then you can do the same for our little sphere particles. So just like that, we created a nice abstract looking audio reacting liquid sphere in After Effects using Shotcut Form and Shine. We also created the background and some particles flying around. And of course, you can also go and apply a star glow into this form layer. I think that we have too many particles in the animation, so let's just go back to our particles, change it down to 3, and maybe make them a little bit smaller. 2, yeah. So just like that, we created a really quick liquid sphere in After Effects using Shotcut Form and Shine. Don't forget to explore this technique and expand on it. And again, you can always blur it out, add optical flares in here. Let me blur it out again. And just create a nice little abstract background for your music videos, or your rain movie, short film. I don't know. Experiment with it, and you can create quite a lot of interesting things using form and vector blurs. So just check it out, explore, experiment with your stuff, and don't forget to leave your comments below. And we'll see you next time in the next video tutorial. I'm Vincent Nguyen. Thanks for watching, guys.